I grew up on the northwest side of Detroit in an area called Redford and headed out to Michigan State University where I obtained my degree in hotel, restaurant, and institutional management, because at that time that's how I thought I could help people the most, was to get that degree and feed them good food and make them feel comfortable. Drove to Chicago and helped with the whole concept of developing the Morton Steakhouse chain, and I left. And I went directly back to Michigan State to do what I really wanted to do, which was actually get into medicine, but I didn't think I was smart enough as my mother or father. But I did find out that I had enough drive to get me through. Also worked in a couple labs there, one being the biomechanics lab at Michigan State, and the other one being the Michigan Tissue Bank that was in Lansing at the time, and got a lot of valuable experience in basic science. And eventually got into medical school. There, I really loved the aspect of understanding how the human body can heal itself. And actually established a research and development program for what was called the Student Osteopathic Medical Association. And then obtained a fellowship at University of Chicago in adult reconstruction. I was actually the first doctor of osteopathy that was allowed into their fellowship program. And I was put into a smaller lab with a research fellow in oral maxillofacial surgery. And that's always great when two disciplines kind of mix together. And she was looking at platelet-rich plasma, which I kind of knew about. And so as soon as I left University of Chicago and got into practice, I was looking for ways to integrate this type of basic science into my practice, and looked into how platelet-rich plasma would help patients after a total knee arthroplasty, where they would have decreased pain, increased range of motion, decreased need for transfusions. So during this whole process, I'm a joint replacement surgeon at that time, but noticed that there was something different. Noticed that I wasn't able to climb stairs as easy as I thought I could. When I would bike, which I was an avid biker, I would notice that I was a lot more short of breath and unable to beat my brother, who I would always be able to beat before, but it was getting harder to do that. So right around Christmas Eve of 2015, I decided to call up a friend of mine who's a cardiologist and see if he could see me. And when he took a look at my EKG, he said, "There's something seriously wrong," which I kind of knew that there was, but really didn't want to believe. And I had 95% blockage of my left anterior descending artery of my heart, which is sometimes known as the widowmaker. At that time, though, they also found out that I had an aneurysm. Aneurysm at the base of my heart, which is called the root. And that was a bigger problem because that can be fatal, and really only about 10% of the people where that ruptures actually survive that rupture. So at that time, I had to think about what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I knew that there was a better way of treating this because the standard way of treating this is to crack open your chest, tear out that disease part of your aorta and put it in a Dacron tube. So again, by the grace of God, I just happened to be listening to a radio show, and they had a researcher on there that was doing similar stuff, or was talking about similar stuff that I was very interested in. And I happened to just look her up on the internet and then contact her. And we've had a long discussion, and we've been working over the past 3 years together. And during this conversation, I did tell her about my situation, and she said, "Well, why don't you just try what we've been talking about, which is to use a bone marrow concentrate along with a pre-treatment that we've been doing, and see if that works." And so I went to a couple of other researchers and a couple of other orthopedic surgeons, and I asked them, could you do this for me? A lot of them said no because they thought I was nuts. But I finally found somebody who was willing to take that chance, and I told them that I would actually push that into me so that you wouldn't be implicated in anything that would happen. And so I had this pre-treatment, and then I actually had this bone marrow derived stem cell treatment that was given to me. And I've actually had it done twice, so I can speak from my own experience of how this works. And again, by the grace of God, that this has shrunken a bit and has stabilized. So they've canceled my surgery, which I was set for in 2016. And now I'm a living, breathing example of how this treatment is helpful and may be potentially better than standard treatments that we have right now. I've taken this experience that's affected me deeply and looked at how this can be used for the normal guy. Because traditionally, autologous, meaning that this stem cells that come from you, has been a treatment reserved basically for the rich and famous. And that just didn't sit right with me because everybody should be able to benefit from this treatment. And looking at ways of how we can improve this process, just not for people that have a lot of money, but for the common guy that's got that aching knee, or that common guy that has a father who has that aching knee, or a mother who has that aching knee, or a bad back. And how can this help and make it effective, make it ethical, and make it affordable? This isn't for everybody. And you may run into people, if you're looking for this type of treatment, that will say it's for everybody. And it really isn't. I've come up with a scoring system that can ethically tell you if this is worth looking at. So we try to establish criteria of where we feel that you could be successful and use that criteria ethically to provide this cutting edge treatment. My experience from the beginning has been to try to find a way that could provide a system of treatment that's not reliant upon the government, that's not reliant upon an insurance agency, and is something that utilizes the body's natural ability to heal itself. I think through my background, where my family has been heavily invested in the osteopathic profession, where that is based on the principles of trying to get the body to find a way to heal itself. So I hope that this whole story of where I came from and where we're going with this helps you understand about my whole personal story.